For the Packers defense to be the best version of itself, they need Eric Stokes.
You are Locked On Packers, your daily Green Bay Packers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast, iTunes, Spotify, wherever you find podcasts, you will find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet, and the show for fans who know what happened. They want to know why and how. Thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. We hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first ticket purchase. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed, terms apply. Eric Stokes had a couple interceptions yesterday at training camp as we move through camp. And it struck me that for this team to really reach its full potential, I wrote yesterday in The Leap about Javon Bullard, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to, and his ability to unlock Xavier McKinney and to get the best out of this defense. But I think Anthony Johnson Jr. and Evan Williams, like Javon Bullard is the best version of that. But I am steadfast in believing safeties, by and large, unless they're elite of the elite, they don't move the needle that much. Though I think Javon Bullard and Xavier McKinney have a chance to be a duo that breaks that trend. But it's too much for me to go there this year with Javon Bullard because, why? Most rookies are bad. And that's why Eric Stokes is an interesting case. Because Eric Stokes was not bad as a rookie. In fact, Eric Stokes was quite good as a rookie. Not just good for a rookie, good as a rookie. A distinction I make often about Stokes. And the ball production was something that we didn't see. He had opportunities and interceptions, didn't get his head around, or couldn't finish the play with a catch. That's why seeing him, and we didn't really see him make those plays in training camp either. A lot of reps against Davante Adams, a lot of getting worked by Davante Adams. But so now here we are. This is, if you will pardon the phrase, nut crunch time for him in his career. The best version of Eric Stokes is a really, really, really good football player. I like Carrington Valentine. He's a really good story. And by all accounts, he's had, a good camp, a good spring. He's put on more weight. And he has an excellent insurance policy if you don't get the best version of Eric Stokes. But having a backup plan for something is not the same as understanding and chasing the upside of a thing if everything goes right. So if Eric Stokes get hurt or he doesn't play to the level that it looked like he could get to as a rookie, you have Carrington Valentine. It's a really nice backstop to have. But Eric Stokes' best is terrific. And if you look around the NFC North, the Vikings' cornerback room is not very good. The Lions' cornerback room is not very good. The Bears have Jalen Johnson and Tyreek Stevenson, who's a promising player, an unproven player. The only guy in the division even close to as good as Jair Alexander is Jalen Johnson. I'm not sure the Lions have a corner as good as Eric Stokes at his best. I'm not sure the Vikings have a corner as good as Eric Stokes at his best. And I think Eric Stokes at his best is a better player than Tyreek Stevenson, the other boundary corner for the Chicago Bears. Now, you look around at the best teams in the NFC. The Cowboys, with Diggs and Bland, that's a really good duo, but the Packers cooked those boys last year. We'll see what the Eagles can put together. They went out and they drafted some corners. Most rookies are bad. San Francisco, Charvarius Ward, really nice player, but do they have a second guy that you really feel good about? This has kind of been a question they've been asking for years. They sign Isaac Yiadom. They draft Renardo Green. They have Diamadou Lenore, who's going to play the nickel for them. I don't know if they have someone as good as Eric Stokes can be. And the last piece of this is it seems like Jeff Hafley is going to run a defense that caters to Eric Stokes' strengths. Man coverage, we talked about this yesterday. All the single high means in order to play single high coverage, you have to trust your corners one-on-one on the outside, because whether it's cover 3 or cover 1, it is going to be a lot of you one-on-one with a guy across from you. And yeah, there's, of course, when you're in a zone, it's not always that. But the whole point is, if you have a corner who can guard against the deep throws as a boundary corner in cover 3, it makes it a lot easier as a safety to do your job, because you're not worried about that guy getting beat over the top. Eric Stokes, one of the defining characteristics of his profile as a player is his speed, his makeup speed in particular. His ability to get beat and recover to a throw that, even if it's perfect, he can get back to because he's just that fast. That version of Eric Stokes is better than anything the Packers can put together as a backup, and it is potentially better than basically anyone else in the NFC can muster from a cornerback 2 standpoint among these contenders. Well, Eagles accepting, we've seen James Bradbury, we've seen Darius Slay play at really high levels at various points in their career, but there's a reason that the Eagles went out and they paid premium draft cost, because that's what it is, for Quinyon Mitchell, for Cooper DeJean. James Bradbury is not even a guarantee to make this Eagles roster. So while I do think that getting a safety like Javon Bullard ultimately decides how good this defense can be, there is no best version of this defense without Eric Stokes, because Eric Stokes' potential is truly that high. He can be a game changer. And if he takes a step forward, if he brings all of the physical tools that he has to bear on the situation, and he's been made older and wiser by the experiences of the last few years, playing diminished last year, if that's made him wiser, smarter, and hungrier, all the better. Now, speaking of the best version and the best version of this team, Jordan Love, still not signed. I want to provide even more reasons why the Packers have to just suck it up and pay the money. That's next. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Game Time. It's baseball season, baby. Baseball season, and the NFL preseason, by the way, right around the corner. So the games have to be on your mind. In Game Time, they're going to get you in. They're going to get you in. It's not just the games. It's concerts, comedy, theater, and more. Save up to 60% when you buy last minute at Game Time. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. And they have panoramic views from your seats in the app before you buy, so you know what you're getting ahead of time. Take the guesswork out of buying baseball tickets, concert tickets. It's the summer, it's concert season, comedy, theater, and more. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, the lowest price, guaranteed. Are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. So over the course of the last few months, I have been looking at trying to find historical examples. The love season that was had. Is this something that could just be a guy got hot? The 8 good games theory. And I mean all of the data that I have been able to find, places that I would go to look on any quarterback. Like, this is not, I'm looking to confirm my priors. Like, I didn't know what I would find when I went to seek out the data, but I went to find what I think is the best data. And so I went to the cleanest idea to me, and that is EPA per play. We know Jordan Love, top 5 EPA per play. So even with the theory that he was only good for half a season, he finished 5th in EPA per play. So even with a trash first half of the season, according to his critics, that's not what happened, but according to his critics, he was bad for half a season and was good for half a season. That's being overly reductive, but let's just say that's true. It's not, but let's say it is. It was so good in the second half, he finished top 5 in EPA per play. Over the last 5 years, here are the quarterbacks who finished top 5 in EPA per play. Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, Dak Prescott, Josh Allen, Tua Tagovailoa, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes, Drew Brees, Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Burrow, Tom Brady, Jimmy G, Jalen Hurts. So, to recap, the only guys in the last 5 years to finish in the top 5 in EPA per play are either the consensus best quarterbacks in the league, Mahomes, Brees, Burrow, Allen, Brady, Rodgers. They work for Kyle Shanahan or Mike McDaniel, aka Tua and the 49er boys. Or they're Ryan Tannehill, who was a later career veteran who found the perfect marriage of scheme and situation with Derrick Henry, A.J. Brown, and Arthur Smith. And the only quote-unquote outlier that I didn't just cover is 2 years ago, Jalen Hurts, when he was second in MVP voting. So, as we talked about the other day, a top quarterback in the league for a season. Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, they're kind of considered narratively in the same tier. But there's no one in a position like Jordan Love was on this list, where if you were trying to be cynical, if you were trying to be critical, you would go, see, look. Like, there's no Mitch Trubisky on this list. There's not even like a Kirk Cousins on this list, because In the last 5 years, at least, he hasn't done it. I haven't gone back to see further than that if he ever has. But at least in the last 5 years, it hasn't happened. Now, if you really wanted to be cynical, you could say, well, Matt LaFleur, Kyle Shanahan tree, like, listen, the Stafford is on there, that's Sean McVay. Tua's on there, Purdy's on there, Jimmy's on there. This is all the same tree. And I would say to you, well, okay, Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland runs a version of this offense. They're not on there. There are other versions of this offense being run around the league, like Ryan Tannehill and Arthur Smith, okay? Desmond Ritter's not on there. Because that's, if you're going to listen to the fans, and look, you should not listen to the Bears fans, the Lions fans, the Vikings fans, the 49ers fans, whatever, that act like Jordan Love stinks. There is not a quarterback who stinks on the list. Not one. And certainly none of those guys stunk the years that they were on those lists, top 5 EPA per play. But in the case of Ryan Tannehill, like Ryan Tannehill was on there twice. And Jalen Hurts, by the way, whether you think he's good or not, the most relevant thing to this discussion that we're having right now is Jalen Hurts, off that 2022 season, got $51 million annually. So, Jordan Love, this is not a fluke. And that is before we get to, don't get mad, all of the caveats with the youth, with him being in his first year as a starter, with all of the turmoil around him, the young players, the injuries, Christian Watson, Aaron Jones, David Bakhtiari, first year play caller with that quarterback in terms of like first year calling plays for him. None of those other players that I mentioned can say that. And so, once again, you've just run out of excuses. You've run out of reasons to say we're dubious about this repeating itself. This doesn't happen. He's not Ryan Tannehill, who mid to late career resurgence with Derrick Henry and A.J. Brown. Okay, cool. The Packers did not have either of those players on their roster last year or any even close facsimile of those guys. So that's out. They did not have A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Shane Steichen, by the way, one of the best offensive quarterbacks coaches, offensive minds, offensive coordinators, scheme lords in the game. Everyone thinks the Colts are going to be good this year with Anthony Richardson. Basically, only because Anthony Richardson's physical ability and Shane Steichen. Everyone is super high. A guy who's thrown like 14 more passes in the NFL than I have. Everyone is convinced the Colts are going to be a playoff team because of Shane Steichen and because of Anthony Richardson's physical abilities. Well, Jordan Love has those kinds of physical abilities. We know he does. And he has this season of high-level play. You can't just say 8 games because this is an EPA per play figure for the season, the whole year. This is what he was for the year, even with that bad first half, if you want to call it that. And I don't, but even if you do, what was he for the season? That's what matters. Like Aaron Schatz talks about this, and by the way, we're going to have Aaron Schatz on the show next week from FTN Fantasy, formerly Football Outsiders. The second half performance, we get tricked by it. And it rarely translates as well as the full season numbers. So yes, in the second half, Jordan Love was the second best quarterback in the league. Does that mean for the year, that's what he's going to be next year? No, because it's just half a season. But for the full season, he was a top 5 quarterback by productivity. By productivity. Now, the fact that like Kyle Shanahan has done it, with Jimmy and Brock, this is one of the reasons why you need to be dubious of the Brock Purdy thing if you're the 49ers, because it's like, we've seen Shanahan do this. Like Brock Purdy is better than Jimmy G, but that's not that high a bar. And we know what Shanahan is capable of doing. We know what Matt LaFleur is capable of doing too. That's the only diss left at this point, is to say, well, okay, look at the peers. It's McVay, it's Shanahan, it's McDaniel. So this is actually LaFleur. But if we do that, then you have to go back and you have to undercut Aaron Rodgers in 2020 and 2021, which I don't think certainly the Packers Rodgers stands want to do. And then you also have to give Matt LaFleur credit, which usually opposing fans also don't want to do. So those people just don't want to live in reality. And that's their choice. All that said, this deal is not done. So we're going to have to talk about it until it is. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with the eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV Channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV Channels app. Okay, we got to do it. We got to do it. And we have to do it because we're still waiting on Jordan Love. And I can offer you the context that I have been provided over the last couple of days as I've talked to people, as I've reached out to try and get a handle on what is going on here from people who I think would know. And we heard from Adam Schefter, positive talks, maybe this week, maybe next week. Diana Rossini, friend of the show, was saying weeks. Not September, but weeks. August. And so I think that raises some alarm bells for Packer fans going, but what the heck? Why is this taking so long? And the answer that I keep getting back when I ask that question to people, who both have some level of understanding in what's happening there, but also a level of understanding around the league, let's say. And the answer that I have gotten over and over again is these things take time. They are hard to do. They are hard to structure. They are hard to negotiate. But no one, and I mean no one, I've talked to some new people that I had not previously talked to about this. No one is worried about this getting done. Everyone thinks this is getting done. And not just everyone thinks this is getting done, is confident it will get done. So again, I almost made a joke out of it earlier in the week when I was like, this is the least dramatic hold-in ever. And that's still true. I understand there are some Packer fans getting antsy about it. I've been getting tweets about it and messages about it like, hey, can they just figure this out and get to work? And I agree. Here's what I don't want. I don't want people, and I know that, you guys, the listeners of Locked On Packers are erudite enough to not do this, but I don't want people out there to jump to conclusions about who to blame, because there is going to be a certain group of people who assume this is Jordan Love's fault, and not Jordan Love's fault necessarily, but the agent's fault. He's just trying to get a name, trying to make a name for himself. He's just trying to get his cut, whatever it is. David Mulligetta at Athletes First does not need the Jordan Love deal to be a made man in the NFL. This is one of the superstar power broker agents in the NFL. He doesn't need this for that to be true. And he's made his money. If anything, Jordan Love is the one who deserves the money and needs the money because he has not gotten the major payday yet. And he's about to get generational wealth. So don't jump to the conclusion that that's what's happening, because I don't think that's what's happening. But it was interesting the way that Diana phrased it in her report, that there was an expectation from the Love camp that they would be the highest, come in at the highest paid number ever. Highest paid quarterback in the league, which is the same thing as saying the highest paid quarterback ever. Adam Schefter on Pat McAfee the other day said he thought Jordan Love would be either the highest paid or one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league. And Field Yates said recently on Mina Kimes' podcast that he, and by the way, he has sources in the league and he talks to people. He's a hooked-in reporter, in addition to being a fantasy guru and a friend of the show, that he thinks Jordan Love will be the highest paid quarterback in the league. So that's just interesting color. My guess would be the Packers did not go into this thinking that that would be the burden, that would be the line. Sorry, the burden thing is on my mind because of Presumed Innocent, the finale yesterday. That would be the threshold, right? That they would have to get to 55, 56, 57, 58. Although if they listen to Locked On Packers, they would know that I've been saying that for weeks, that is what it's going to take. That is what it is going to take. You are going to have to make Jordan Love the highest paid quarterback in the league. And if you don't, you're going to have to break signing bonus records. And even if you do, you might have to break signing bonus records to avoid the structures that you've not wanted to deal with in the past. And this, to me, my understanding of where this all is it's that minutia. It's the details. It's not, we're not sure we can pay you, or it's not the Brandon Ayuk where it's like, we think you're worth 22, and I'm just making up numbers here, and you think you're worth 30. That's not the issue, as far as I understand it. That's not to say that the money is all decided, but my understanding is that is not the issue. We're talking about structure here. We're talking about, okay, I've speculated before on what some of those things can be. I don't even want to speculate anymore on what that stuff is, but this is a productive set of dialogues that have happened. They continue to be productive. Jordan Love is going to continue to sit out as is necessary in a moment like this. And I don't want people to blame the team. Oh, what are they doing? They lowballed Jordan. What, just pay him the money? Although I've not seen that very much, which is interesting, because when it was Aaron Rodgers, they seemed to feel very much that way. But it's Aaron Rodgers, so I guess I understand the difference there. And I don't want them to blame Jordan Love, who's just doing exactly what any of us would do in that situation and try and maximize the leverage that we have, the ability that we have. Jordan Love, one of the most talented quarterbacks in the league. And I just laid out for you that the season that he had is pretty good evidence. This is no fluke. At the very least, he projects as a Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, Jimmy G, Tua Tagovailoa level quarterback moving forward. And no, that's not any great shakes in terms of being Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, those elite level quarterbacks. But Jalen Hurts just got $51 million. Jared Goff just got $53 million. Brock Purdy in a year is going to get $55 to $60 million. These guys get paid. Jordan Love is going to get paid. You just have to be patient. All right, back tomorrow as we close out this first week of training camp here on Locked On Packers. Let's do this. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. All the social medias, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. You guys have been absolutely crushing it on the social medias. Go check us out there. Thank you so much for riding along with us on this journey. Another season. We are here. I've been here since 2017 on Locked On Packers. So we are veterans at this point. And go over and subscribe to The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. so you can stay locked on Packers.